getting really good at hitting 9:30 now. I'm telling you, this is the only sports show on TV, on radio that brags about being on time. But it's true. I mean, we're right here on time and on schedule.
20 years doing this, and you wait till the last 2 months.
Last 3 shows. What are you kidding me? Yeah. All right, well, so we now wasted part of our show talking about how timely we are.
And I'm sure the listeners are like, yeah, who cares?
No, I'm sure there's people wagering on this out there.
Well, I know some people that do. So
think they're going to be on time? I got $20 says they're going to be late. I don't know. Honnold would bet on it.
He would. There's nothing that man wouldn't bet on.
Did you get the text from him last night?
I did, except for I was in the middle of getting ready for a game, and I never responded. So,
he had some not so favorable things saying about Iowa State because they gave up that last second bucket, and he had Iowa State by 2.5. And that made it a 1-point game. Yeah, so that last second bucket cost him a little something from Vegas.
Well, that's why you just don't do it, Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, it's KCIM Sports Rewind. Of course, lots to talk to. We're going to dive into basketball coming up a little bit later on today. And the winter sports season is here, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So all of it's just as busy as the spring sports season anymore. With that one with all the different sports. But we're going to start, of course, with the Kemper Football Championship, by the way. Introduce ourselves. I'm John Ryan.
I'm Jeff Blankman.
And I'm Mason Nealand.
So let's talk about it. Kemper, man, dominant performance going on for the Kemper Knights over Van Meter. I was at the food drive on Friday.
Right.
And I'm watching it on my phone, kind of going, hey, everybody, how you doing? Looking down at my phone. When they scored that second touchdown, when Kemper did, I thought, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a part late in the half when Van Meter had it, and I'm like, okay, if they score here and they get the ball to start the second half, they'd have a chance to get back in it. But the way Kemper's defense was playing, you just kind of felt like a 14-0 lead was safe. Now, I will say early, when Kemper couldn't really move the football against Van Meter early on, you went, this could be really, really interesting today. But then the Kemper defense, that's got to be, Mason, probably by far, not that they haven't had really good football games this year, but by far probably the best game that their defense has played all year.
Yeah, and I know me and John kind of had the same experience of greeting people at the food drive, but also at the same time kind of looking down and seeing that. And I'm sitting there in Hy-Vee, and there wasn't really much going on. At the start of the game, I had a couple of people kind of come up and ask why I was looking down. I'm like, well, there's a game going on that I'm watching. And so I watch, and then they threw that interception early, and I was like, oh, they got good field position. Wow. Yeah. And then their defense turns around and started making some stops. And I'm like, it was, if you look at Kemper this season, it was between the defense and offense. Everyone was kind of looking at the offense saying, well, they're scoring 40 a game and they're that good at offense. But defense was kind of, when you look at it in this final game, what they relied on to be able to get that win.
Yeah, that's what you talked to head coach Ryan Steinkamp afterwards. Said everybody talks about Kemper's offense, rightfully so.
Right.
But that defense, I tell you, Lucas Deal, 7 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Jack Bading, 7 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. And McGuire Hoyt, 6 tackles, a tackle for loss, and a sack. They just harassed Van Meter all day.
Yeah, and it was difficult coming up with who our player of the game was. We ended up going with Lucas because he just appeared on, to be in the backfield and disrupting things on pretty much every play in the game. And then I thought did a nice job up front with the offensive line as well. But then you looked at the numbers and you're like, wow, Jack was probably in the backfield as often as Lucas, and McGuire Hoyt had a good game. And it just, Jaron Hoffman got it on the offensive side of the ball from a few other outlets and ended up with, 170 rushing or whatever on the day. And 156. And it's like, wow, this was just a really good performance.
Yeah, I mean, it was something special to watch. I mean, you look at, for our area at least, you look at how hard they've worked all season, how well they've played all season. Some teams, you play well all season, and then playoff time comes around, it gets a little harder. But it just kind of looked like they didn't waver much there. And besides kind of that first quarter against Van Meter there, where it was a little bit of a struggle, there was not really that time of the season where I looked and I go, wow, they're kind of in trouble losing it here.
Yeah, I mean, Van Meter started at their own 42 after the interception on their opening drive, started at the Kemper 28 on their next drive. I still say that Brock Bading punt that pinned and flipped the field, that pinned Van Meter back at the 21, might have been the start of what changed the game, because it was just a couple of plays later that Brayton Alford came up with the interception, giving Kemper the ball at the 24, and that's what kind of jump-started the offense a little bit. So it was the defense creating the turnover. But if you don't flip the field with that punt, and say Van Meter gets really good field position, again, does that interception turn into points for Kemper, and then do they kind of get things going a little bit?
Yeah. By the way, Braden Alford, 8 tackles, tackle for loss, and an interception for the Kemper defense. This is a dominating a performance as Kemper, or from a defense period? I don't care what team that we've seen throughout the year.
I still go back to the Audubon game where they held Cam to negative 26 yards of total offense for the game is probably the most. They only had like 3 or 4 plays the entire game that were for positive yards. So that was probably the most dominant. But I would say this one probably ranks number 2 for me, at least in the games that I saw, as far as dominant defensive performances.
Yeah, and I know we gave Brayton Alford our Defensive Player of the Year, and I've seen kind of some talks on Twitter of different places that have been looking at him and stuff. And, I mean, it showed when you go to a state title games, there's some guys that, you look at and they're like, well, you have to show up on that stage. And I think not even just Brayton, but everyone kind of showed up on that stage there. So props to them for being able to kind of rise to that occasion as well.
So offensively, it all starts with the offensive line and Brock Bading making the decision. I mean, he's the distributor of the ball. You talk to, once again, Jaron Hoffman afterwards. He goes, man, I just do what Brock tells me to do.
Right.
It's like this guy runs the offense.
Yeah, and I think Brock even said early on that, some of the pressure that Van Meter was bringing, I don't think they were fully prepared for or had expected. They were getting to him early on, which, kind of gave the offense some issues once they adjusted to that a little bit. And then in the second half, they got Jaron Hoffman in the run game going. He hadn't really run for much in the first half, but then you start breaking off some of those more. And it doesn't have to be 15, 20-yard runs. If you start getting 5, 6, 7 yards per rush, all of a sudden the offense kind of gets rolling and it takes a little pressure off the pass game. But
you're dominating time of possession and just everything, momentum at all.
Yeah, and Doug Wandiger and I had watched that Van Meter defense in their semifinal round game, and we're like, they're really good at bringing different blitz packages and bringing pressure, not even just blitzing, but just bringing guys from different angles and stunts. They were in the Osage backfield all day long, and you saw that a lot through that first quarter against Kemper until the Knights kind of adjusted it a little bit. But they were still able to get some pressure on him throughout most of the game.
And that's where Jaron Hoffman kind of stepped up, Mason, when Brock said, he goes, man, they were blitzing from the outside early. Then when that wasn't effective because he was blocking from the outside, then they changed it to the inside, and Kemper made that adjustment.
Yeah, and he's kind of been their workhorse all season. When they needed tough yards, you give the ball to Jaron. I know kind of banged up in the earlier part of the postseason there, but he came back, and he's just been kind of that same guy. He went out there, and they'd give him the ball, and he'd go get you for sure at least 2 or 3 yards, if not break off a big run like he did at the end of the game and go get you 50 or 60.
Yeah, I do kind of chuckle at that big run at the end of the game. When he first got through the hole, everybody, Doug yelled, he's gone, and I'm like, yeah, he should be gone, and all of a sudden he gets caught from behind. So I asked him in the post-game interview, I said, did you feel like you had it like you were going to score on that play? And he goes, no, I don't have any ankles left. I knew somebody'd catch me.
Somebody was bound to at that point. So I tell you, the whole second half, it seemed to take a long time to get there. But like I said, it never felt like Kemper was ever threatened in the second half. I know Coach Steinkamp said when they scored, we felt like we have to respond immediately to that.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what just makes good teams good teams.
It does. And that turnover, that fumble by Van Meter on the opening kickoff of the second half, they had a really good return. They were going to be out near midfield, and they ended up fumbling the football. It's a 14-0 game at that point, but if they score right there to start the third quarter, it could be a different ball game. You watched how they absolutely dominated Osage in the second half after being kind of outplayed in the first half in the semifinal. But that turnover was huge, and I think that kind of reignited Kemper, and in a way it really put the football game away because the Knights were able to score on a 1-yard run from Brock Bading, and that put them up 21-0. And if it wasn't over at half, up 14-0, up 21-0 in the third, it was over.
Yeah, it was seemed like just a long second half from what I was watching.
It did.
It just took a long time to get there. But it was interesting. You were waiting to do the post-game interviews, and you said you heard the Van Meter coach
talk. I did. Yeah, it was really interesting listening to him. He's won so many state championships and been so good over there. And he talked about,
this is a program that's year in and year out solid.
10 straight years at the Dome. So that tells you how good they are. But he kind of said, he goes, everybody kind of, tucked us away, after the beginning of the year. They lost right away to Des Moines Christian, fell to Clarinda early in the district season, and they were very young, just I think he said 7 seniors on the team. But he said that group of seniors, even though they were small, and it's the smallest group of seniors that he's had, they did a really nice job of kind of rallying the group and providing that leadership, and they closed the season on a 7-game win streak, and then end up losing to Kemper there in that championship game. But he talked about the fact that nobody anticipating them being there. They weren't supposed to be at the Dome this year, but they were able to kind of right the ship early in the season and get there. And it was just kind of interesting listening to him talk, at a program that, like I said, 10 straight years there, and to talk about, this team wasn't supposed to be there, but we got here.
Yeah. The dominance of the program, it's just going to continue, Mason. I mean, they've got the facilities there, and they're continually building.
Yeah, and I mean, as a school, they're going to grow with numbers and everything, and once you grow like that, you get more kids coming in, you get different athletes, different choices from different athletes to be able to play out there. And I mean, I know, Jeff, you had kind of talked to one of the athletes out there as well and kind of gave him credit for the effort that he had. I can't remember exactly what you had said again.
The Doggett kid that ran Jurin down at the end of the game, I was thoroughly impressed with the way he was all over the field in the semifinal round game, and then he did the same thing against Kemper. So he was standing in the media room and nobody was interviewing. So I just walked over and I said, hey, I'm with the Carroll radio station. I cover Kemper, but I just want to tip my cap. It was fun watching you play these last 2 rounds, and I love watching kids that give that kind of an effort. And some people are like, why are you talking to the opposing player? And I'm like, they're 14, 18-year-old kids on both sides of the field. When a kid gives the effort that young man gave, you got to give him some kudos, and I'm more than willing to be able to do that.
Yeah, so you got to go beyond the color that's on your shirt to appreciate just good play and fair play as well. So Kemper, what's the future of the program look like? They're going to lose a great group of seniors.
They are, but they're young this year. They're bringing back pretty much the entire offensive line, half the defensive line. They'll lose some key linebackers. They lose a couple of wide receivers, but they've got some really good talent back. If the young Alfred Talon can grow into that junior year and replace Brock, you got Jaron Hoffman back, so you can rely a little bit more on the run game early in the year. But Mason, I don't see this team falling off very far. I think this is a team that's got a potential to make another really, really good run.
Yeah, I mean, when I had talked, I kind of listened to some of the quotes that you hear from different media outlets, and they just say, this offensive line is all back.
Yep.
It's almost everyone on that offensive line is back. You lose a couple of guys, like you said, on the defensive end, and I think that's kind of going to be where you're going to have to find those holes. And then the biggest hole, again, Talon Alford there, you're going to have to see if he can kind of jump and fill not all of what Brock had left, but kind of most of what Brock had left, because Brock does a lot of things that you don't generically see on the high school level, but you're going to have Jaron Hoffman to be able to kind of lead you early in the season, like you had said there. But you're also going to have to look at the receivers and say, we got young receivers. You got Griffin Glenn back. You got Easton Gifford. You got all these guys that were kind of filling in a little bit, and Griffin kind of still one of the better receivers that they got, but some other guys that have filled it and kind of been able to play and filled those shoes early in the season as well.
Yeah, and you can't expect Talon right away to be what Brock is and go out and throw for 3,000 yards, because that receiver core is going to be different next year.
You think?
Yeah, but he showed
if the bar is 3,000 yards.
It's going to be tough. One. But I still think the potential there to be really, really good is there, and I think Talon's going to go out and prove people that he's capable of playing that position. He showed that in the games that he got in this season. But mentioning Brock. Of course, I've only been here 22 years, so I don't know the entire history of Kemper football. But he's got to go down as, if not the best quarterback, certainly one of them. He passed the great Cole Neary
I was
in
like,
passing
Cole is
touchdowns.
who jumps out to me.
Yep. He broke Cole's record for passing touchdowns in a career completions and also for yardage. So he's a record holder up there. To me, Cole's always been special. That team, that 2013 team, was special, and how good that team was, and everything. But this Kemper group goes right up there with them, and Brock's got to be in that discussion now of the best quarterback maybe to ever, put the chin straps on up at Kemper.
Yeah. I was going to say, you said a lot coming back, and they have great prospects coming up next year as well. But I'm like, who's going to get in their way? Nobody in the district. You look at that. I mean, they steamrolled through their district. They did all of that up until like the Dome, and then anything can happen at that point.
Yeah, but I look at their district and I say, Spirit Lake's a traditional power. and they were down a little bit this year, but who knows? Maybe they bounce back next year. OABCIG under Larry Allen's been really, really good. So a lot of people anticipated that district being extremely strong this year, and I think part of it was Kemper was just so elite this year, but I don't think the Spirit Lake and OABCIG were as good as what people were expecting them to be, and then Okoboji probably overdid what a few teams, maybe what people thought. But that district's not going to probably be easy next season as it was this season. So,
all right, let's take a look at all the other championship games. So we got Kemper out of the way; they win 28-7 over Van Meter. Check out Western Iowa.
Yeah,
beginning with, which to you is the championship game of the year? Garrigan Woodbine, or was it West Lyon, Iowa City, Regina in overtime?
For me, it was West Lyon. Yeah, it was West Lyon, Regina. You got a town of, around.
Didn't Garrigan win on the last play, too?
They did. Yeah, they did.
A 2-point conversion?
I look at that West Lyon game, and I sit here and I'm like, this is a small community playing against a school district that's in one of the largest cities in the state.
And one of the most well-funded schools.
Yes, they have resources that very few programs in the entire state. They have a nutritionist on staff. They have the Iowa Hawkeye weightlifting strength coaches come in and teach them weightlifting. I mean, if you listen to the broadcast of that championship game and you see all the advantages that Regina has as a 1A school, and the fact that West Lyon was able to get them in that championship game, beyond just the way that game ended, just the pure advantages that Regina has over everybody else in 1A, and for West Lyon to win that game is outstanding.
Yeah, Regina and Solon right there in the Hawkeyes' backyard, and they have a lot of advantages there. But then you throw in teams like MMCRU, Marcus Meriden, Cleghorn, whatever the rest of it is. Against St. Ansgar, they win 30-17. I'll even throw Nevada in there. They beat Bishop Heelan 27-6 in that one. So the team that knocked out Carroll winning the state championship.
Yeah, Nevada went on, and I know they beat Carroll, and then they went and beat number 1 Bishop Heelan, or not
number 1 Clear
Lake, and then they'd beat, I think, number 2 and number 4 on their way to winning a state title. And I know
that's no fluke. That's that's earning your way to
the championship. They won that one completely. And then I heard some talks of, if Carroll would have beat them, would they have had a chance? And I think, with the way Nevada played, I think Carroll would have had a chance. But it was fun to see a team that you watched in your own backyard right here in Carroll go on and beat all these great teams and go win a state title when I don't think anyone in the state had picked Nevada to go win that state title.
No. And some people said after they beat Clear Lake, well, they had played them earlier in the year and lost to them in a tight game, so they went into that game with confidence. I just think the thing was, and I say this, in watching their semifinal round game and their championship game, Carroll could have played with anybody at the Dome. Absolutely could have played and beaten anybody that was at the Dome. Nevada was the most physical team I saw all season long. Their running backs just went in and thumped people. If there was a linebacker coming to make a hit, it wasn't the linebacker that was making the contact and directing the contact. It was the running back. It was the quarterback. Their receivers, their defensive guys just lit people up, play after play after play. That was by far the most physical team. They were fun to watch just because they wanted to hammer you, and not just on the scoreboard. They wanted to make sure you were waking up the next day and going, I was just in a really physical ball game and I hurt.
No kidding. So that kind of wraps up the football season here. We're going to be chatting about a little high school basketball. We got some new faces on the benches that we're going to be talking about and more. So KCIM Sports Rewind continues after this from St. Anthony Rehab Services.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
Ejiofor, he'll fire a three-way out left short, and the rebound put in by Mitchell, but time expires, and Iowa State wins it. 83-82, the Cyclones hang on to beat St. John's. And TJ Otzelberger has his 100th win as the coach of the Cyclones, and he does it in dramatic fashion.
John Walters from the Cyclone Radio Network announcing to the world that Jeff Honnold lost his bet. 2.5-point fix. Iowa State was over the number 14 team, and there you go. They only won it by 1. That little last-second lay-in. I wonder how many other bettors out there were like, "Oh man,
yeah, I'm sure
on that."
That'll be on Bad Beats with Scott Van Pelt. I'm sure. And hopefully, when they show it, they just show a picture of Honnold.
Tell you what, that Players Era tournament is crazy good.
It is.
They are paying each team $1 million for their NIL. So I mean, I have no problem with that.
No.
You know what? I mean, go play in great tournaments like that early season. It's great for us fans.
It is.
To be able to see this quality basketball. And we've got Iowa State Creighton coming up here at the noon hour pregame, 1 o'clock for that tip-off time. So we're getting set for that. But question of the day, your trivia question. What conference has the most ranked teams and how many? It's very, very close between all of them.
Is it the SEC?
I was just going to say
the SEC was
that's half
7.
the answer.
7 on there. And how many Big Ten teams?
Probably 6.
6. Big 12 teams?
4.
5. And there's no Kansas, no Baylor, no Creighton. None of them are ranked so far in the top 25. So that's pretty crazy to think about that. That is just a changing of the guard a little bit.
Well, you'll laugh at this. When I was putting sports together for this morning, I went and looked at all the scores from the Big 10 and Big 12, and so I can read off the non-ranked team scores after I do the top 25. And the first game I come across is Kansas. And I'm like, there's no number next to them.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I on the women's page? So I scrolled back up to the top, and I'm like, no. Like, they were in the rankings. They were 24 just last week, so they had to have fallen out of the rankings yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And
they lost to
had
Duke,
that
didn't
caught in that. Yeah.
I think they lost to Duke, and that's what kind of sent them out packing.
Yeah, but some of the losses, like Creighton's got a couple losses, Baylor's got a couple losses. They've played some really good opponents so far.
They have, absolutely.
So I love a team that's not afraid to go out and play something.
Make some better come postseason time. So I got a quick question here for Mason, because I've been hearing a lot of chatter from Hawkeye fans that are extremely excited that Creighton is struggling a little bit because there's a couple of former Hawkeyes that I guess are not maybe playing real well, and Hawkeye fans appear to be excited about the fact that the guys that transferred out are struggling a little bit. Is that the case?
There's only one guy that I care about, and he's wearing red now.
Okay.
It's the Sanford kid over at Nebraska. That guy, I
wasn't bringing him up. I was bringing up Creighton.
No, the Creighton guys, I'm like, if you do okay, that's fine. But if you go from Iowa to Nebraska, I hope you average 0 a game.
Yeah.
By the way, Ben McCollum and his team out in California, the tournament, they play Ole Miss. That's later tonight, about 8:30. So they've got another good tournament going on out there too.
Right.
So I'd still say he's going to have that program rolling this year. I think the team that he brought in can compete with any team anywhere.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I like last night I was looking at some of the scores, and it was about 1 a.m, and I looked and I'm like, there's still basketball going? And I'm like, oh, yeah, they're playing out in Hawaii. So there was games that were still in the first half at 1 o'clock in the morning on our time. And I'm like, I remember the years when I'd turn the TV on and watch those games. And I'm not now.
Mason, you won't remember this, but when ESPN was like the king of college basketball, they had a 24-hour stretch where they would play, like they kick off the season with 24 hours of straight basketball, live basketball. At different locations around the country. The great with the Alaskan Shootout used to be a big tournament.
I remember that tournament and everything. Yeah, those were the good old days. I can remember them doing they would call it Midnight Madness, and they would bounce around to all these colleges that would start basketball practice at midnight on the first night that they could have practice and everything, and they'd bounce around to all those different sites. So they used to do things really, really well.
Yeah, that was before NIL and everybody got good. There was just certain programs you had to watch, and that was it. So as we turn our attention, you guys had the basketball preview shows. In fact, you got the boys preview show coming up tonight here on KCIM. 6:30 is the start time for that, so you preview all of the teams. But let's talk about the new coaches that we have this year. You've got a number of them on the girls' side, just 1 or 2
on the boys.
Just one?
Yep, Seth Streben.
And that's a big one.
It is.
That's some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, Seth Streben, young guy in his 40s, has had some success, took a team from North Mahaska to the state tournament while he was there in 10 years, 9 as the head coach. But, yeah, he's going to replace Corey Meyer, who just was probably one of the best that's ever done it down at Coon Rapids Bayard, and stepped away at the end of last season. And I know Seth said that he still talks basketball every day with Corey, but I think he's a young guy that is going to do some really good things down there. He walks into a team this year that is loaded. Yeah, absolutely. Got a chance to be really, really special.
Yeah, and I know when I looked at some of the rankings, you see him consistently in the top 5. So, I mean, Corey kind of did a number for him and kind of got him to that place and then said, you know what, let's give it to somebody young and let's let you go make the decisions and let you kind of help this team get there. But I think that they're going to be good this year. I don't know Seth yet. I know you'll probably meet him today at Media Day,
yep.
But I'll be glad to see kind of what they do next week. I have their game with Audubon, and it'll be fun to see how that team looks comparative to what they looked like under Corey.
Yeah, I don't think the system's going to change a lot. I think they'll probably try to be a little bit more offensively, but he said that he's kind of a guy that knows the defense is what wins you games and championships, so they're going to focus on defense. It may not always be that hardcore man-to-man that Corey taught and coached for so long, but I think they're going to be really good. I'm going to say this, too, here. You mentioned the rankings with Kuhn in the top 5. There's a lot of people in this part of the state that kind of make some jokes sometimes about the Rolling Valley Conference. Well, they've got 2 teams in the top 5 this year in the preseason with Woodbine also up there. So the Rolling Valley having a kind of a special run right now with some of those teams.
Woodbine's just got a great classes going through right now. Very athletic.
Yeah, and I don't know if things are going to drop off. They're getting enough of that kind of that leak over, and they're getting bigger as a program and bigger as a school. So you may see Woodbine hang around for a while. Over on the girls' side of things, we've got 3 changes over there. You ended up talking with Eric, the new head coach over at Glidden Ralston, who replaced Ashley Kaler, who moved up to Northwest Iowa.
Yeah, kind of, I'd say mid-40s guy. I mean, was a really nice guy actually there, but I get to talk to him as well. I think he's a guy that can probably do some special stuff with that Glidden team. I know in talking to other coaches as well from the Rolling Valley, they're like, Glidden's got a really good freshman class. They've got some good returners. They could do some damage in that conference this year, I feel like.
And he's had success in the past down at Underwood. Won at least 1 state championship down there?
Yeah, I think he was 3 years at Loma in the late 90s, and then 7 years at Underwood from 2000 to 2007. Took 2 teams to the tournament, and I think he won 1.
I was waiting for you to say mid-40s, so an old guy, and I was going to jump all over you for that comment.
I'm surprised he didn't say that.
I know better now.
Yeah. Josh Dietrich taking over up at East Sac County after the very sad passing of Jason Phillips this summer. And Josh, of course, is South Central Calhoun grad who's been helping coach the boys program there at East Sac. So I think Josh is going to do a nice job. And then, Austin Stolk and Janie Stolk are kind of co-head coaching Arweva this year. They've got a couple of young ones, or one young one, and it's just going to work out this year for Austin to be kind of the head of the group. So, even though there's a new head at Arweva, technically, him and Janie are going to be kind of coaching together and putting their 2 brains together. So, not much of a change really over at Arweva.
Tell you what, I love the dedication that Austin has shown to his alma mater.
Yeah, he loves Arweva. He is going to be a rocket, forever, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to help whatever program it is over there. And, he's coached football, still is, coached baseball. He's coached boys and girls basketball. I joke with him that someday he'll have to coach softball and track because those are the only things that are left that, he hasn't put his fingertips and footprint on already. So.
Now, if he could just do color commentary while he's coaching and things like that from the sidelines, then he'd have the trifecta.
We may try and get him to do that at some point.
We'll just get him a wireless headset.
There
we'll
we
just
go.
have him comment on the game as it goes on.
I miss those days of the old Carroll softball field where the press box was above that first base dugout. We used to drop headsets out to the first base coach in between innings and let them kind of give their thoughts. So, a wireless headset to throw on a coach over in the sidelines may not be a bad idea.
All right, so we got about a minute and a half left here. So let's do top 4 in boys and girls. So starting at number 4, who would you guys think in girls? Or do you want to go from 1 down to 4?
Okay, so are we doing boys or girls?
You're doing girls basketball first.
Okay.
Let me think of who my top is so I can go down.
Okay. I'm going to start with IKM Manning. I know it was a rough one for them last night, but I'm going to start with IKM Manning.
Yeah.
At number 4.
Yeah, I was thinking there's probably about 2 teams right there, and I think that Manning kind of slides into that 4 slot.
At 3, I'm going to say probably Kemper. I think Kemper's got a chance to be really good, and these teams can be interchangeable a little bit. Mason might have a different idea than
I got Carroll at 3.
Okay,
I think that it's going to be tough because the Raccoon River is just that good.
Yeah,
but I think postseason time will be different since they're 3A now.
Yes, and that definitely will be beneficial. For me, I'm going to go. Who did I have? I had Kemper at 3.
Yeah,
I'm going to go Exira Corn Kimballton at 2.
Okay, that's the combined program with Audubon.
With Audubon, yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, I kind of backed myself in a corner because I forgot they exist, even though I did media day yesterday. So slide everyone down a notch. I'm gonna put Exira there.
Okay. I think they've got a chance to be really, really good this year. And then my number one team right now would be Coon Rapids Bayard girls. I think they've got a chance to really have a special year this year.
Yeah, I got Coon as well. I know that they're going to have to find some pieces outside of kind of their 2 girls right away to be able to contribute. But I know that down there, I think Caitlin will get them ready to go, and I think it'll be a battle for that Rolling Valley Conference title between them and Exira.
Everybody back from a team that made the regional final a year ago, and everybody but one girl back from the team that was in the regional final 2 years ago. So they've got that chance to be really special.
That's a lock right there.
Yes.
How about the boys?
I know my top 2, but I can't figure out the other 2.
Well, Kemper's probably number 1, I would imagine, right? No, not for you?
Nope.
Okay, so Coon would be number 1 in your book, I'm guessing? Okay.
I got Coon at number 1, Kemper at number 2.
Okay.
And then it's just, it's tough because there's a lot of teams that I feel like are pretty evenly matched around that middle part.
I'm going to go Kemper 1 for me, Coon 2, and then I'm going to slot Carroll High in at number 3. I think Carroll High is going to surprise some people. Kind of like you said, the Raccoon River Conference, they may not have the best of record maybe in league, but I think when they get into the postseason, as long as they don't end up going back east against a lot of those teams, I think they're a team that could really do some damage, come postseason time.
Yeah, I mean, a team that last year nobody thought could hang with Storm Lake in the postseason, and it was a single-digit game, and they beat Storm Lake during the regular season. And I'm like, there's just a couple question marks for Carroll for me. I know they lost some guys over the last couple years, so we'll see who kind of slots into those. But yeah, I'd probably put Carroll up there, and then after that, I kind of want to see kind of the same thing with IKM Manning, what they have out and what they have kind of in different spots to be able to know kind of where they're at.
If they can get 2 or 3 guys to score the ball on a consistent basis this year, they've got the potential to be a really, really good ball club. So it's going to be consistency on the offensive end because Keith's always going to teach defense. I think South Central Calhoun could be another potential. They've got so much length. I just talked to Clive and was at media day yesterday, and they're going to be long with long arms, and that's going to give them the potential to have a pretty good year.
All right, so there you go. That is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week. Catch a podcast available on the website coming up here in just a couple more minutes. And, of course, follow along all season long. Basketball just getting rolling. We got a couple of girls' games going on later tonight. Webster City at Carroll on Kick 106.7. Mason has that ball game. And Coon Rapids Bayard at Kemper. That should be a good early season matchup for you, Jeff, tonight on KKRL.
Looking forward to that one. As soon as the show's over here, I'll start doing my prep and my homework coming off the game last night. So,
all right. That is KCIM Sports Rewind.